Hey everyone, I am here with another tutorial video, and this one is going to be about demo watching and how to make it the most efficient as possible. This is a topic that I think a lot of players aren't very sure on how they can be spending their time the most efficiently and what they should be looking for. So I hope that this is going to help everyone. When you're watching these demos, you need to make sure that you have a very clear goal of what you're looking for when you're watching them. I can pretty much guarantee that you're not going to have as much success of finding useful things if you don't have one. An example of that is, let's just say that you're playing on Mirage and you're the con player, and typically in a lot of scrims and matches, you feel a little bit more uncomfortable whenever it's mid-round and they smoke window and top con, where anything can happen at that point. That's the time where you look at a lot of demos and you look for those specific instances of what that player does when he sees that certain situation and what works for him when it does. Of course, you can be looking at demos just to find fun things or just new things of how someone's playing your spot. But for most players, they're having a lot of issues with different things that they need to have a little bit more focus on. So that's more for those types of players. For this demo session, I'm going to be showing you what I'm looking for. I'm going to be writing down a lot of these different rounds, and I'm going to have the notes for it afterwards for you to look at in the description. I don't have a big focus myself because I'm going to be trying to show you guys what I'm looking for overall when I'm watching the demos and what I can be looking for afterwards for more focused demo watching, as if I were watching from scratch and I'm a kind of a new CS player. I'm going to be looking at Overpass at the A side, where it's going to be Magisk and Glaive from Cologne. So let's get right into these. Getting right into it, this is how my notes are going to be looking, and don't worry, these are going to be linked in the description for you guys to look at, but I'm going to show you that I'm going to be dividing these up into anti-ecos, and specifically non-AK anti-ecos, where they can't drop. And unfortunately, in these two demos, I wasn't able to find any bomb plant where they dropped in AKs or Galils. So unfortunately, if I need to look for that, I have to look at some other demos. I'm differentiating these by the round starts, where there's 2A, and then where they have an op, where they don't have an op and it's double rifles, where they have double ops and Magisk ends up going as the 3B guy, 3A, 1B, 4A, and you're kind of seeing where I'm getting with this, where I'm trying to make it a little bit more specific to what I'm looking for and what I'm seeing. So when you're watching these, I usually try to skip the pistol rounds because they're a little bit more team oriented, and sometimes I do actually look at these second round forces to see what type of ideas that people have for different ways of getting frags, but I'm not going to be looking at that right now. So going into the first gun round, this is a round where they're going to be doing 2A, and Glaive has an op. So this is going to be going into my 2A with op, and I actually end up writing a lot of what they do in these rounds, where I like to picture, if I'm playing in the moment, what am I going to be calling? Let's do a Molly Fountain, Smoke Party, and we're going to be playing this certain way. And I think that really helps. It's not how I always write notes, but that's how I did it for the purpose of this video. So we look at Magisk, and he's going to be doing a Molly towards Fountain, and he's going to be smoking Party. Glaive is going to be doing the smoke over here towards Monster. And he's going to like playing very close behind the smoke at the trash can, looking at top blue. And then when I'm watching these, you have to make sure that you're looking at both players. I'm going to focus on Magisk for this video, but you also have to look at how the B players are complementing this as well. And the B players naded open the door and they're boosting for bridge. So Magisk doesn't actually have to worry that much for blue right now, and he can focus on his crosshair. He is looking towards blue. There might be some miscommunication, but he doesn't really have to focus on it. So I'm going to be writing that down, exactly how he's starting it, how he's getting complimented with the B players, and then what do they do afterwards. So as soon as the T's take short here, they're not completely sure, but they have to get off the boost. So he knows that it's open. So Magisk decides to push towards Fountain here. And he can do this at a pretty good risk level because they haven't thrown or done anything towards A. He can pretty much just look for info and try to stack towards B or get a good flank off. Going into the next round, it actually is going to be pretty much exactly the same. And Magisk is going to be doing the exact same start, and Glaive is going to be looking on top of Party for him. So that's something I want to note, and I actually just put it in blue for the video. I'm not always this color coded like this, but just to make it a little bit easier to see what he's doing. And you can see that Magisk, he has the same type of timing. As soon as the smoke goes away, he is able to push party, and he has a pretty good timing for this. There's no one here. They haven't thrown anything. It's pretty good odds for him to be able to push and get this info. One thing that I will say was different from the last round is that they didn't boost for blue. So the door was naded open, but there was no one boosted, so he technically didn't have the same type of info, which would make it a little bit more risky in my eyes this round. First anti-eco is going to be right here, and we're seeing that he's going to do the molly for fountain. Glaive is going for the quick pick, and he has a flash ready in case he's going to get flashed and run down. And you see the step 2 of their round is to fall back. Magisk is looking at top blue, and then they decide very quickly to go towards close long. We actually call this Sean Gares, so if you hear me saying that, he's playing Sean Gares, and then Glaive is going to be jump spotting at dice. This is an anti-eco that I noticed that they did twice. It's not a lot of times. It was in 2 demos, but it seems like that they like this type of setup. And when you're seeing teams and players do things a lot of times, that means that they're very comfortable with it. They probably get a lot of success doing it. So it's something to take note of when you're seeing them do things multiple times. So this is the first round that's going to be a little bit different, where they're doing double ops at A, and Magisk is going to be the third B guy. When I'm going to my notes and I'm going to write that down, I'm going to go to my double A with double ops here, and Magisk goes as the third B guy. And I write down exactly what they do. So Dupree goes for the fountain peak because he has the best spawn, gets flashed off, falls back, and Glaive is going to be the long opper. And since we're focused on Magisk, what is he doing this whole time? He's smoking monster for them, and then he's going to go and molly short, nade it, and he's just going to be playing as like this third support type player. So out of the 2 demos that I saw, this round was the one where I was a little bit surprised that they had Magisk playing as the second B guy for a little bit, considering he's not the normal B guy, so he's not going to have all the same protocols and knowing exactly like how they want to play. And usually you want to have your players that are doing something a little bit different. You kind of put them in a role that they're a little bit more comfortable with. And I'm not saying that Magisk isn't comfortable, but if you're going to be going to your team and you want to be playing at a completely different spot, I think that it's going to be a little bit more difficult for you to do that, since you're not as aware of the late round protocols and knowing how to defend against certain types of execs. Something that is nice to write down, like how he's playing as the third B guy, if you do want to put this, is how he's setting up in the late round and mid round. So when they go 3 towards A, they are also positioning to move back a little bit, him and Zipnix, and they end up going for this bridge boost. And because Bubsky comes back, they're able to go into a normal 3B setup where Magisk can play a little bit more support, which is probably going to be the preferred thing most of the time. Going to the next anti-eco round that we see in this demo, we're going to have Magisk, he's doing the molly for fountain, and they're going to flash over from Glaive, and Glaive is going to be going top blue opping, and Magisk is going to have the door naded open from the B guys, and his responsibility here is going to be door. So Glaive is dealing with the guys that are rushing up a little bit quicker, and Magisk wants to help him, but he knows that his responsibility is towards blue, and his B players aren't actually picking that up for him. So he has to make sure that they're not going to get crunched here. Very quickly, this round, they have 2 players at A, and they choose to do an aggression. So this is something that I would want to know and be like, okay, so they're doing 2 guys at A, and they're doing some type of aggro play. How are they going to make this work? And very quickly, it doesn't work, and they're not able to do anything off of it. So it's something that I would probably want to see if he has any success with it later and write that down as well. This next round is going to be Magisk doing the same thing again. He mollies the fountain, and it's Dupree instead this time going for the pick, and they didn't put out the molly, so that is kind of showing that there's not going to be that much towards A if you're a CT, because you can get pretty advanced positioning. And Magisk is going to be playing solo at the shelf. Door is not naded open. So I think that it's very risky to play like this a lot of the time, because you're just on an island by yourself, and they can be walking up double blue, and it would be kind of easy trades for them. But it's something that he likes doing, and he's choosing to do it, so maybe he has success with it. And I would want to look and see more of how he's going to be playing these situations more often if I wanted to look more into how he plays these solo blue rounds. Thankfully, this round, there was no one blue at all, and they went 5 mid. So he was able to go up a little bit here and get a quick pick and fall back and play very slow and back at blue. So this is another 2A with op round. And Magisk, he is deciding to play solo at long at the tree, and Glaive is doing a smoke for top blue. He wanted that to land a little bit here so he can stare at anyone walking up blue. And this is something I'm going to want to know, like, how is he going to make this work? Unfortunately, he doesn't. They do go too long, and it didn't work out for him. But I think that it is good to have in your playbook, and he probably is thinking that, oh, they haven't been going A that much, or maybe I can get a late round push up and get good info later in the half, because a lot of the times lurkers at A, whenever it's one towards A, they like working a little bit more towards party, or they're going to have to use a flash at long, and then he can just peek after the flash and kill the solo guy, and he has a ton of info for his team. Unfortunately, it doesn't work, but it's good to think about why is he doing it, and just don't write it off as bad immediately. Next round, we're going to have another double ops towards A, and Magisk is going to be doing his same role. He's the third B guy. He's mauling, he's nading towards short, and this round he's going to be playing a little bit more back towards CT, and is going to be going for spams. And I like this a lot more than the other round, because I feel like everyone's a little bit more in their normal role. And if they ever did have to swap and they wanted to put the other op towards B, they can do that a little bit more seamlessly. And he's not in a position where he's more uncomfortable. So looking at this round, this is the first time they're going 3 towards A. And they're going to be doing the double Molotovs at stairs and playground with a flash over. And Magisk is going to be trying to run into playground instantly. Dupree is mauling and then instantly leaving. And Glaive is throwing a flash, and then he's only going to be looking at blue. And this is actually pretty difficult for Magisk to get into this position and win this fight. If they do use a flash, he won't be able to make it in time. So looking at this push from the T perspective, Testes was able, as the solo guy, to wait out the entire Molotov at playground, obviously smoke this out and flash over, and so he was able to catch him before he got into any cover. And pretty much the only cover that you can get to is right here, and Magisk tries to get to it, but he gets spotted, and Testes is able to win the duel against him. So looking at this second demo from Astralis from Cologne against VP, we skip the pistol round, and then we look at the second anti-eco round, because that is what we were looking for. And this is a round where they actually could have dropped AKs, but they chose not to. So unfortunately, we won't be able to use that, and it will just go under the non-AK anti-eco rounds. So for this round, they are choosing to do a 1-4, and he's just throwing his utility, Molly Fountain, Smoke Party, Nade, and he's going to be playing solo lockers while these guys are taking short control. And it's important to know like what your teammates are kind of doing here. They're getting info very quickly if it's B or not. And then Glaive is doing the 2 flashes over Monster for these guys to push a little bit more since they have MP9s. And then Magisk knows, okay, this is probably going to be my time soon. They're going to be coming from somewhere. And something that he does there to note is looking at how he is going to be reacting to this info. So when he knows that it's towards B, he's going to be going towards long after the timer gets a little bit low. And he's going to let his team know that it's all good, guys. Get to B ASAP. It's not A. And making sure that you secure these eco rounds. All right, going into this first gun round, we're going to see both of them go into it without an op. So if you look at the notes, it goes right from the no op double rifles. Let's see what they do. If you were in this situation in game, what would you call? So in this round, they're going to be mollying and flashing over, and unfortunately it missed, but they're choosing to do a very aggressive attack here on the fountain area with Glaive looking over from party and Magisk here. And unfortunately, he loses the duel, and it's very difficult for Glaive to trade this without an op. So the 2 rounds that they've kind of like pushed towards fountain with 2 guys, it still has not worked. But I actually really like this aggression from Glaive afterwards. And this is something that I would think of if maybe somehow we got picked on one of these types of rounds and we had 2 here, nothing happened. They might be thinking, okay, we killed one of the A guys. They didn't do anything crazy aggressive. So maybe he can play towards long and try to kill these guys if they're going to skimp out on utility at all, or only go with like 1 or 2, kind of how Buster did. But there's some rounds where they would go really slow and they would only be 1 towards long, and he'd be able to punish that. And I think it's very good that he didn't just completely give up all that info. This round, we would categorize this under like an anti-eco, where they have an op. So he goes for the pick initially, and then doesn't see anything. They smoked it out. And Magisk, he wanted to play locker solo as Glaive was going to run all the way back, but they do start popping. So Magisk just ends up running back. All right, so we're going to have, again, another 3A setup. It's going to be the exact same one as last time, where they're going to have Dupree instead going towards playground, nading it, mollying it, and Magisk is responsible for looking at blue here, and he wants to play in it, while Glaive falls all the way back, the same way that Dupree did in the last time. And Dupree was actually able to get to playground where Magisk couldn't, but it's actually going to be very difficult for him to get a multi-frag here. So they end up double clearing him. It was kind of a hard angle for him to double trade. Maybe he might want to try a different angle later or see what else can work, but that seemed very hard to me. So it's another round where they kind of did a similar thing, and it on the surface didn't work, but I think it's actually a very good call that they're able to get into playground here. It's a very important part of the map to be able to take this control and then rotate everyone towards B if possible. So even though he didn't get a kill, I think it was very possible for him to get kills, and it was a good call for him to get there, since they're a team that likes to play, and most teams, they just like to play heavier B and blue defaults. So this is another anti-eco round where they just molly and then go back. Magisk throws a smoke for them, and they end up going into the same thing where he's playing in Fountain and he's looking at his top blue. I'm going to skip to where he swaps, and he ends up going to Sean Garris here, and then Glaive goes back to jump spotting at Dice, which is what they did in the other round, which I have highlighted in yellow at the anti-eco parts. And you can see on these rounds, on these late 50-second rounds, he likes to push and get this info if he can to let his team know if you guys can all just go forward towards B or not. And I think it's good info from him, and he ends up getting a kill from it and knowing if they're coming back to A, which he does stop them pretty successfully. So now we have a completely different round where we're going to go forward towards A, and they want to do a little pace change. They're up 6-0, so they want to try to beat them to the change that they're going to do. They're going to have Dupree go close long, and they're going to go double in blue with Magisk. He's making a play in the smoke here. Bubsky is here just in case, and Glaive is looking at Fountain. And unfortunately, Dupree is playing solo long, and it's very hard for him to get the kills here when they're just going to be swinging. They didn't even use a flash, so there was definitely potential for that to happen. But I think that it's a hard situation for him to be in, and maybe it's not worth the risk. So going into the next round, we actually have another 3A setup. Dupree is throwing his molly, and he's out of there already. Magisk, he's throwing a flash over again to playground, and he's playing a different angle compared to Dupree. Dupree is playing this one. Very hard for him to get kills. Magisk is playing this angle where you can see underneath, and this is a very strong angle. It's pretty hard to die to this. You're pretty much always going to get one, so I like this choice from him. And he's able to get his teammates to rotate off after, unless Glaive wants to look at blue, which is also very strong. But it's exactly the same 3A rounds that they've been doing. They clearly like this way of taking 3A and getting to playground, especially in this meta where a lot of players like doing very heavy B defaults so they can get the rest of their team towards B. And sometimes, even if you have a lot of people there, you're still going to lose. Unfortunate, but it's very hard to hold. But I think it's very good from the A players what they're deciding to do. So this is another interesting round topic where they have very low utility. Magisk only has an M4 and a smoke, and Glaive only has op, smoke, no armor at all. So how are they going to play these types of rounds? This might be something that you might even be thinking during a game. This is a very tough situation. What should we call? And you can be looking for these certain types of situations. So on this one, Magisk, he's just going to be jump spotting from long, and Glaive is going to be playing pretty standard here at mid, looking for any punish picks for people going very quickly. And as soon as Glaive, he sees Buster at mid here, he's going to go back a little bit more, and then they're going to be going into a boost at Sean Garris here. And this is probably something that they were planning from the very beginning, since Magisk was jump spotting for the beginning, and Glaive was holding all of this info over here towards mid. And as soon as he falls back, he can still do the boost at long since they didn't take it yet. Magisk has that info. Or even if they flash, he can just boost a little bit afterwards, which is probably what happened. Yeah, Buster, he throws a flash, and it's like, okay, now he's peeking. He sees nothing. And that's actually pretty much the perfect timing to do that boost. The only way that you die to it is if the opera is posted on you. If it's the solo guy, which I'm sure that they suspected since he only saw Buster from before, and this was a very good decision from them. I'm pretty sure that they had this pre-planned before the round even started, and this is something that I think that you should be thinking about, since they are very tough situations to deal with when you're in a game. For the very last round of these demos, let's look at a very similar situation that we saw earlier that you'll see in the notes, color-coded in blue, where they do the Molly Fountain, they smoke party, and then Magisk plays at the trash can looking at top blue. Door is not open, so he is going to have to be looking at it and be worried about it as Glaive is looking at party. And this time, since the smoke is just going to fade, they're going to get out of there before the smoke fades, and they're going to be going into the same type of setup that they do in the other rounds, where Magisk is going to be playing Shangairs and Glaive is going to be playing long. And he's going to be going into this off angle here. It can actually catch a lot of people off guard where they don't know that he's already peeking at this type of angle here at long. And you're also going to see in this round, as it gets a little bit later, Magisk around the 50-second mark, he's going to go looking for info at long. Unfortunately, he's going to get punished, but it's something that he's done a little bit consistently in the other rounds. It's something he's comfortable doing, and Glaive is back in sight at dice. Unfortunately, they lose this round, but I don't think that is anything out of the ordinary for what they normally like to do. And most of the times, if they're going to be going towards B, it's good info plays. It's just unfortunate the lurk spot that he was in. So overall, I hope that me watching that demo and showing kind of like my thought process going towards what I think is important and how to organize the demo is going to help a lot of you guys. At the bottom of the note, I have takeaways, and I'm not just going to read it word for word for you guys. You can look at it yourselves. I think that it's very useful. You don't have to always write down exactly what people are doing every single round. That's a lot of work. You can look for very specific things, like how I mentioned at the beginning of the video, where if you're looking for double op setups, or if you have low utility, what do people do? Scroll these demos and go very quickly. Get Skybox. It just came free on Steam from Anders. That's super cool, and it's the same type of app that I'm using to watch these demos very quickly and just scroll through them. They're very useful, and I hope that everyone starts using them. Usually when I'm watching these demos myself, I'm trying to look for new things or trying to see exactly what's working. So I did write down pretty much every round that they did, but you want to focus on what is working for these players, or if they're doing it multiple times, it must be something that does work for them a lot. And that's something that I tried to highlight with the color-coded ones of what he was doing pretty consistently. And they had pretty good CT halves here, so you should pay attention to exactly what they're doing and what you can emulate in your own games. Hope that this helped a lot of players, and that you guys like, comment, subscribe on my videos for any future tutorial videos, and let me know in the comments what else you guys would like to see. Thank you so much for watching, and have a good day, everyone.